I've had a lot of people asking me about being concerned that their votes are not going to be certified in certain counties in certain states in the United States. Because we have the Electoral College, you need 270, because we have a lot of officials working elections saying, I believe Mr. Trump, so we're not going to certify. We've had a lot of that going on. I think we've had a couple of very well-known people who have done little segments on it as well. So people are coming in and saying, why should I even vote? First, I'm in a state that's not a swing state. Second, I'm in a swing state, but I don't think my vote's going to be certified in time for the electoral count. So why bother doing all of this? Well, let me tell you why. First of all, just because you're not in a swing state doesn't mean you're not important. The only reason why swing states matter is because everybody goes and votes in all of the other states. If we don't have voter participation in any of the other states, then the swing states that everyone's looking at aren't going to matter because the other states are going to be all screwed up. So in order for us to even have this discussion, everybody has to go and vote. It doesn't matter if you're in a swing state or not. You still have to go and vote, or you still have to mail in your vote. Now, for those of you in the notorious swing states, what's most important is that you follow the rules and regulations set in your state for voting. That means everything is done correctly for registration, everything is done correctly for voting. Now, if you've done everything you're supposed to do and you're in the right place and you voted how it's set up for you to vote, everything is going to be okay. Now, there are some people out there who have gotten themselves into positions in local county places where they have said, I don't really care what happens. I'm upset about 2020, all those years ago. So I'm going to say whomever I want to be president is the one who won, or else there's fraud. I'm not even going to look at how things were run. I'm just going to claim fraud, and that way I won't certify my county, and that way the votes can't be counted for my state. You can't get my electoral count votes, and then my person will win because the House of Representatives will choose the president. Now that's a great scheme, and it sounds a lot to me like the complicated scheme that was set out in 2020 involving our fake electors. Here's the deal, everybody. There may be a few counties where people are like, we're refusing to certify. That may happen because it's happened before. It's happened in elections before. This isn't something new in the legal world. This may be something new to the public because of all of the media and everything that happened in 2020. But this is not the first time that we have looked to the law and said, what's going on in our elections? Let's make sure that everyone's following the rules. It's happened in all of our elections. So for county people to come in and say, I refuse to certify, well, we have a law for that. And when that law gets broken, then we go to court. When we go to court, you may say, well, what do we have to do? We have to have proof, we have to have evidence, which is partly a huge part of what happened to all of those 85 lawsuits that were filed by Mr. Trump and his team back in 2020. They went in, they said, there's all these problems, there's all this fraud, and the court said, show me it, show me the evidence. And there wasn't any. So those cases were dismissed or went wherever they needed to go, and involving sanctions to attorneys and so on. Now, will we have more than 85 lawsuits this year? Yeah, I'm sure we will. But that's still what we do. You break the law by not certifying the election, which is illegal. You're going to have to deal with the lawsuit. Now, you may say, well, what if the judge says it's fine? We go to the next level, and then that court reads the law and says you've broken the law, you need to certify. And then you say, well, what if that's a judge that's friendly and wants to just have their person become the president? Then we go to the Supreme Court in that state. And that Supreme Court then will have to sit there and decide whether or not to follow the law written by the legislature in their state and follow the rules set out in their constitution, or go down their own political road. That's what the state Supreme Courts will have to do. Now, ultimately, if they decide the state Supreme Court level, well, there was fraud, even though there really wasn't, it goes all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, I think a lot of people are pretty worried because the U.S. Supreme Court's got some problems. And I agree. We have 2 Supreme Court justices with articles of impeachment. We have a chief Supreme Court justice that's created this immunity defense for Mr. Trump. So we do have some issues. But when it comes to how states run their elections, they have been very consistent, the entire Supreme Court, repeatedly. And if you look back to how they handled the cases in 2020, you will see they have said time and time again, state law needs to be followed. And it needs to be followed by everybody. And in every single state, it says this is the certification process. So if you violate that certification process, you are in violation of the law. So at this point, everyone, I know you don't trust the Supreme Court. I know you don't trust the judicial system, but the laws are there. We even have a federal law that was passed in 2022 to prevent the kind of thing that happened in 2020 from never happening again. So even our state laws are stronger, our federal laws are stronger. All of us attorneys are out there making sure that the law is followed. Yeah, there are attorneys saying, well, I'll definitely come out here and we'll fight against any kind of fraud. Well, great. But you still have to prove fraud. You still have to follow the law. And that's what we do as attorneys, most of us. Are there some of us that are not very good attorneys or not very ethical attorneys? Yeah, there are. And we saw that with the filing of a lot of the lawsuits in 2020. And again, those attorneys have been sanctioned and hopefully have come to an understanding that your job as a lawyer is to follow the Constitution of the United States and of your state. That's your job. Now, your job as a voter is to go out and vote, whether you are in a swing state, whether you are not in a swing state, whether you're in a county where they may refuse to certify or not. Your job is to vote. And I encourage all of you, go out and vote. Follow the proper rules, follow the law correctly, go and vote. And then when you're done voting, whatever happens later, that's where us attorneys are all going to come together and pick things up and make sure the rules were followed. So I'm not asking you to put your trust in the legal system. That's a lot. But what I will say is that we have laws, rules, and regulations that have to be followed. We have fought this battle before. It's just never been this public, and it's probably not been this numerous, because I'm not sure we've had this many attorneys who've been willing to kind of toss their careers out in order to follow their political candidate down. So go out and vote, everybody. The numbers are the key. The higher the numbers going out and voting properly, the better we will have an idea of who the people really want to have serve them. So it's going to be okay, everybody. Go out and vote.